Jean here from All Miniatures Great and Small, and today we are coming at you with another unit overview. This time we're looking at the humble T-34 tank from the Soviet Bagration book, so we're looking at the late war version of the T-34. Eventually I'll swoop back around and we'll do unit overviews for mid-war, but we're not there yet. We still have lots of cool late war stuff that I need to cover first. So, for this variant, just the kind of vanilla T-34, there were over 30,000 of these built by the Soviet Union during World War II. And then even more of the successor, the T-34-85, which will be covered in its own unit overview later. Now, the T-34 in Flames of War is pretty interesting because it is a medium tank. And the Soviets, beyond the T-34, really don't have a medium tank. So it's similar in concept to an American Sherman or a German Panzer III or Panzer IV in what it can do. So let's go ahead and start by taking a look at the stats. And we're going to look at the T-34 first, the tank battalion. There are multiple ways you can take the T-34. You can take the T-34 as just the T-34, or you could take it as a T-34 Hero Tank Company, or you could upgrade either one of those with the Guards card to make them Guards, and that makes them even better. So there are lots of permutations. So we're going to look at the standard T-34 first. Okay, the standard T-34 is hit on a 3+, just like almost everything in the Bagration book. It has a front armor of 6, a side armor of 5, and a top armor of 1. Comparing that to its stablemates, the M4 Sherman, the Panzer IV, these stats are actually pretty good. All those tanks start with a front armor of 6. And the T-34 has a side armor of 5, which is the best side armor. Shermans have a side armor of 4. Panzer IVs have a side armor of 3, with the Scherzen for low firepower weapons. And a top armor of 1 is pretty standard. Tactical or speed-wise, tactical is 12 inches, so it's faster in tactical than both the Panzer IV and the Sherman. It has a terrain dash of 16, cross-country dash of 24, which is massive, and a road dash of 28. And it has a 2+ cross-check. So in the maneuverability arena, the T-34 is kind of unmatched versus other medium tanks from other nations. Now, where its downfall is its weapons. This particular T-34 is the 76mm variant. So it has only a range of 24, halted rate of fire of 2, moving rate of fire of 1, anti-tank 9, firepower 3+, and overworked, which is you never want to see overworked on your card. It has 4 machine gun shots, whether it's moving or halted, which is pretty standard for, the Panzer IV does the same thing. The Americans have more machine guns because as Americans, we tend to bolt extra guns on anything we can find. And if we look at overworked, it is +1 to hit for moving rate of fire. So the T-34, and again we're talking about the 76mm version, is penalized for shooting on the move, like a lot of Soviet tanks, particularly their heavy tanks, which although they only have rate of fire 1, if they're moving, their rate of fire 1 gets even worse. So and then we have the motivation and skill, which is going to be different depending on the type of unit we're taking. So, for example, just the regular kind of vanilla T-34 battalion you can take has a motivation of 4+, a last stand rating of 3+, and a skill of 5+. So the motivation's great, especially that last stand of 3+ is very good. But that skill of 5+ means you're not going to be doing movement orders successfully very often. And so that usually leads to you not doing movement orders at all. And then that, again, that 76mm gun is just the big handicap of this tank. So if the gun is such a big handicap, why would we take it? Well, the nice thing is they're cheap. We're looking at the HQ here. A T-34 with a 76 millimeter is 3 points. A T-34 85 is 5 points. So it's almost half as cheap as the 85 millimeter version. So there's something to be said for it. All right, so this is the standard kind of, like I said, vanilla version, and then you have the hero version. So the stats are all the same gun, same armor, same hit on 3+, but the motivation, that is different. So motivation's only a 4+ with no not one step back rule. So it can't get to a 3+ on last stand, it's a 4+. Skill though is 4+, and tactics, you have a crafty tactics rating of 3+, which helps with movement orders, which is very nice. A 3+ means more often than not you're going to pass those tests for doing things like blitzes and stuff like that. But again, the same gun, it's just that anti-tank 9, 3+ firepower gun. Then the last version you can take is or you can upgrade using the command cards, is guard tanks. And I just have this on my phone here. Guard tanks is pretty cool in that it allows you to upgrade a company. And remember, for the Soviets, a company is like a platoon for any other nation for 3 points. So if you have a T-34 company, whether it's 5 T-34s or 10 T-34s, you can upgrade them to improve their last stand rating to a 3+, and improve their rally and remount ratings to a 3+ as well. Otherwise, they're still rocking this 4+ for remounts and rallies. And same thing here. So guards can definitely add that skill rating to it. But you might be asking, so why would I ever want to take T-34s when we have the awesome T-34-85 waiting in the wing? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, you can take a lot of these guys. So it is conceivable that you could overwhelm your opponent with T-34s. Here is the T-34 kind of point cost. You could get 10 of them for 30 points. That means it is conceivable in a 100-point list to run 31 of these tanks and still have some points left over for AA or something like that, some command cards. And that can overwhelm a lot of opponents if they're not prepared for it. And there is something to be said for Soviet armor in quantity. AT-9 versus, well, let's talk about the opponents here. So some of the common opponents you're going to face are a Stug, Panzer IV, or a Tiger. So those are going to be our 3 examples. So let's start with the Panzer IV, shall we? The Panzer IV is interesting because it's got the same front armor. It's 6 versus 6. But it is anti-tank 11 versus anti-tank 9, which is not a good matchup. So a 9 shooting at a Panzer IV, front armor 6, means the German is going to have to roll a 3 to equal, and this is at short range, and a 4 or higher to bounce. So when we're talking about 4 or higher, if it's a 4+ to bounce, that's 50% of the time you're bouncing shots. And really only 33% of the time at short range is the T-34 going to actually penetrate the Panzer IV. So that's not a very good that's not a very good odds. However, if you can get to the side and shoot that Panzer IV from the side, your 9 versus that side armor of 3 becomes very good. The only way that Panzer IV is going to survive, or at least bounce the hit, is if they roll a 6 to equal. They need a 6 on their armor roll. So it's dramatically different if you can get there. And the fact that these guys, the T-34s, can move 12 tactically means they're more maneuverable and can cover more ground to get into knife fighting range of their opponents, which is very important. All right, so that's the Panzer IV. Now, what about the Stug? Well, the Stug's even worse because the Stug rocks that front armor 7. So, again, just talking about short range, it's even worse at long range. At short range, 9 versus 7 means, as a German player, I only need to worry about rolling a 1. A 1 is a failure. A 2 is equal, so a possible bail. And a 3 or higher, I'm bouncing the shot entirely. So 66% of the time, the Stug is bouncing a shot from a T-34 from the front. They get on the side, and it's the same problem that the Panzer IV had. Now, that Stug is side armor 3 versus anti-tank 9. They need a 6 to equal. They can't even ever bounce. Then, perhaps the worst matchup is the Tiger. Front armor 9 versus anti-tank 9 means there's no way these guns can harm a Tiger from the front. It's impervious to the front. Okay, we get around to the side. Tiger's side armor of 8 versus anti-tank 9 is just as bad. The German player only needs to avoid rolling a 1. A 2+ means they're bouncing that shot. A 1 means that it's a possible bail. And if you've fought Tigers any amount of time like I have, you'll know that a bailed out Tiger is more than likely getting back in. It has such a high remount value that if you don't kill it, you're probably not bailing it out. It's probably not going to affect you. You always might get lucky, but I think it's a 2+ remount for those guys. So those guys can be pretty scary, and you're going to need something else to deal with if you have Tigers on the field. So I hope that gives you an idea for what types of units you might be facing in the German army with your T-34s. Flanking is always good, but again, if you flank and you get behind these guys, that's great, but you have that overworked gun. So if in my turn, I drive here to get this shot, I normally hit a German on a 4. It's going to be a 5 because of my overworked gun, so only one shot on a 5. So to ensure that hit, really I need to get 3 guys behind that Stug for the shot to kind of ensure that hit, because 3 shots on a 5+, you should, on averages, get 1 out of 3. So there you go. That's the T-34. Now, I think one of the biggest strengths of the T-34, though, is not running them by themselves, but running them in a mixed company. So you do have the option of running T-34s as a mix of T-34s and T-34-85s. And that opens up a lot more possibility. One, you're still adding more tanks. And basically what it is, or how it works point-wise, is you buy a company of T-34s. Let's say I buy 8 of them. Then I can upgrade half of them to the superior T-34-85 for 2 points each. So for 8 points, I can bump up 4 out of those 8 tanks. So you're running now a company with mixed tanks, but your T-34s become basically ablative wounds for your better tanks. So yes, the Germans are going to be shooting at you, and they're going to be targeting your more expensive T-34-85s, but your T-34s, you can hopefully swap hits to them, and have your T-34-85 survive longer so that they can get into knife fighting range. Or, nice thing with T-34-85s is you don't necessarily need to seek the knife fight against most targets. And we'll cover that in more detail in the T-34-85 unit overview. So keep that in mind. You do have that mixed company. But otherwise, your choices are just a T-34 tank battalion or a T-34 Hero tank battalion. Now, the regular tank battalion, like I said earlier, can take up to 10 in each company. The Hero can only take, let me get my card here. The Hero at max can take 4 tanks. And that's this company here. And it can take 4 T-34 at its max for 12 points, the Hero version. Or again, it can mix and match with T-34 85s. So that's a good way to do it. And then again, you can upgrade those with guards. So would I personally run just a pure T-34 company, besides the fact that I don't have 31 of these things? I don't think so. I think I would choose to always mix them in, or maybe just run one company of 10 and then have that as a support for some other type of company. Because 10 T-34s just by themselves, again, is it's 30 points. That's a lot of points, but that's 10 tanks. That's 3 points per tank, and that can really scare your opponent. The other thing to consider is their utility against infantry. They can perform pretty well against infantry. With a cross-check of 2+, it means you can risk your T-34s assaulting infantry in woods and in terrain that might require a cross-check without too much worry. I mean, you're going to roll 1s and you'll fail your cross-check, but that's pretty good. So that's a great way to do it. Obviously, the T-34 with the 5+ skill is not the best in assault, but the Hero version with the 4+ skill is much better. That way you're crushing your opponents 50% of the time. So keep that in mind too. The T-34 can be very effective smushing infantry, and because of the higher speed, you might be able to get in and behind the gun shields to be able to assault the packs, Pack 40s and things like that, without them being able to get defensive fire if you can drive around their side before launching the assault. So just some things to consider with the T-34. I like the T-34 a lot. I think it's a cool looking tank. But again, with the overworked gun, that really hobbles the tank like it does so many other Soviet tanks, that I don't think you can rely on it for your main battle line. And if you do, and your opponent brings a Tiger or Panther company. Now, Panthers you might be able to deal with a little bit better with a side armor of 5. You're still a threat. But a Tiger, T-34s just aren't a threat to a Tiger. And if they bring a company of Tigers and you've brought a company of T-34s, I think the writing's on the wall, and that's going to be a very bad experience for the Soviet player. So, all right, there you go, guys. That's just a quick unit overview for the humble T-34 from the Soviet Bagration book. I hope you like this. If you did, please do consider giving us a like and subscribe. Click that bell to receive notification when we release new content. Also, if you like our Flames of War content, please do check out our Patreon, where patrons get access to an exclusive Flames of War battle report every month that's just for them. We have a cool backlog and several battle reports where you can see vehicles like these in combat and see how they perform. As always, thanks for watching, and keep on wargaming.